Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm Glade here. Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video, we're going to be analyzing a lot of the top Hydreigon sets used in VGC, and this is going to be a Hydreigon guide for today. And if you enjoyed this type of content, smash the like button down below and subscribe for more content similar to this. I'm going to be uploading more like VGC guides. So we have a lot of Hydreigon sets pulled up here that I'm going to be going through today, kind of giving a take on each one of them, you know, their uses, why would you use this one over that one, and just my general thoughts on each one, as each of these Hydreigons are really meta relevant and are all sets that you should take into consideration when you're playing against and when you're team building. Now, I do have to give a shout out. Most of these sets were provided by Jamie Boyd. He has an excellent YouTube channel and he does excellent spreads and guides, so give a shout out to him. But before we get into it, this is my second time doing this because the file corrupted in the first one, so leave a like for my dedication, I suppose. Another thing, peep Twitter. We're trying to get to 50 followers here, so I'd appreciate it. It could really help me out, you know. And also, I'm probably going to be doing more of these guys. Like I said, I did one for the Dragon Ball because you guys, Dragon Ball because you guys seem to like these guys, so I'll be doing more of that. Also be doing more analytical contests, more some battle stuff, a lot of stuff coming your way. But before I get sidetracked, let's get into the first mine. This is just going to be an overall analysis video of each of these different Pokemon here. So the first Pokemon that we have is Life Orb Hydreigon. Now, I have a couple Life Orb sets in this video just because Life Orb Hydreigon is one of the best Hydreigon sets when it comes to just pure damage output. The EV spreads are very simple for these, and it's very easy to just pick up and go without much experience. You kind of know what it does, you know what the EV spread does, and you know it has 3 attacking moves and a protect, and you pretty much are just like, you send this guy out, you just go, right? A lot of these are going to, actually all 3 of these Hydreigon sets for the most part are going to be the Draco Meteor, Dark Pulse, and Heat Wave with a little bit of variance. Obviously you want your 2 dual stabs, and Heat Wave is a really good coverage for fire or for steel type, so like Golden Go. Also can help cover grass types like Amoonguss. So very important for Terra Fire, and Terra Fire also helps cover your fairy weakness, because a lot of obviously Hydreigons, you pretty much die to any fairy move. So by Terra Steel, or Terra Fire, you are able to resist the fairy type moves and be able to hit back decently hard. Life Orb just increases your damage output, and Levitate, obviously it's a really good ability because you're immune to earthquakes. So you know, really it can be really helpful when switching into Garchomp. Personally, the speed EVs, obviously you're just gonna be running max speed on this guy because you're trying to be as fast and hit as hard as possible. The reason why you don't go 252 special attack is because actually going 244 and putting 4 in each defense and HP is just overall a better EV distribution in terms of like the effectiveness and how much you get out of it than just going max special attack. So sometimes you will see people using the 444, 244, 252 just because it's an overall better EV stat distribution. This Hydreigon you saw commonly in the beginning of the format because Life Orb just hits incredibly hard. It has kind of fallen out of favor just a little bit. It's still extremely meta relevant, but there are other sets that have been creeping in. But this Life Orb set is a very good beginner set. Now, this set is the same thing, but instead of Protect, you have Tailwind. Now, the reason why you would run Tailwind on Hydreigon is, let's say your team just doesn't have a dedicated Tailwind user. Hydreigon can act as that like mid or early game Tailwind user that you might need to get that boost. Now, a lot of teams do have access to Tailwind, albeit probably Murkrow or Talonflame or Kilowattrel. Now, if you have Murkrow, don't run Tailwind with Hydreigon because Murkrow has enough bulk where it can just like it can live a hit, then switch out, then come in mid game, and then be able to reset up Tailwind. So you don't really need the Tailwind boost from Hydreigon. But let's say you're running like a Talonflame or a Kilowattrel, you might want to run Tailwind on Hydreigon because Talonflame and Kilowattrel, while they're very good Pokemon to set up Tailwind early game, you know, if they have to, you know, switch in after taking damage and then try to set up Tailwind again mid game, that might not work because let's say your opponent has a Murkrow and you have a Talonflame, but your Talonflame is at half health, so it doesn't have Gale Wings active. The Murkrow Tailwinds, and then its partner just kills your Talonflame before it gets to set Tailwind, and then you lack speed control. So something like Hydreigon being able to say, all right, I have Talonflame and I will Tailwind the first turn, but then I might need Tailwind like mid to late game. So you send in Hydreigon, and Hydreigon can set up Tailwind then. So that's the reason why you might want to use Tailwind on Hydreigon. It really just depends. I feel like you should consider it if you have a Pokemon like Kilowatch or Talonflame. And if you obviously don't have any Tailwind user, I think running Tailwind Hydreigon is very good. So obviously most people run Terrafire Hydreigon just because it's a really good defensive typing, and it allows you to hit Steel super effectively, because a lot of Golden Go like to just go Terra Steel, and so obviously your Dark type moves won't be hitting them super effectively anymore, but your Fire type moves will be hitting super effectively, so if you get stabbed on those, that's really good. Now, if you do run Terrafire, you're lacking a really good damage output into, like, let's say Fairy types, which is why the Terra Steel comes in handy here, because you could just go and say, all right, well, I'm going to maybe not run Heat Wave and run Flash Cannon so I can hit Fairy types better. Let's say your team has like a Sylveon weakness and you want to try to patch it by running, just a Flash Cannon, right? You don't have to Terra to even have this thing be good, because Life Orb Flash Cannon coming off of almost max special attack Hydreigon is still going to be doing around 50% to Sylveon, right? So off the gate, you're already having a much better damage output than you would otherwise into Sylveon normally. So you don't even have to Terra to make it work. Flash Cannon automatically gives you a better matchup into Sylveon if your team is a bit weak to it. If your team can chip down Sylveon into around half health, then Flash Cannon should be able to pick up the knockout on it. So that's another reason why people run Flash Cannon, and it's also for different coverage. If you see in the background, I have Skeledirge, and Skeledirge loves to go Terra Fairy, and normally Hydreigon, if you just Terra Fire, yeah, you resist the Terra Blast, but you're not really hitting it back for too much damage. Just you Terra Fairy, okay, it's resist, Draco Meteor, Dark Pulse, and I guess like Heat Wave is going to do some good damage, but it's still bulky enough. Well, if you can predict them to Terra Fairy, and you just Terra Steel in that turn and then Flash Cannon, it's good damage, yes sir. So that's another reason why you might want to run Steel. Also, Steel is a very good defensive typing because Steel is only weak to Fire. And there's not too many Fire types around. I mean, opposing Hydreigon would be your concern. And like Steel is weak to what? Fighting? Okay, well, Hydreigon's already weak to fighting, but you're weak to ground, but you're not weak to ground because you have Levitate. So it's a very, very good ability and can roll lots of stuff. So the Life Orb Pokemon were already Life Orb Hydreigons were ones that were like really, really good in the early metagame, and that's most of the sets that you saw were Life Orb Hydreigons. But as the meta started to develop and whatnot, the people started to come up with new Hydreigon sets, and so we're going to be going into some of the newer-ish innovations. We're straying away from Life Orb now. We're getting into stuff. This is one of the newer techs this is definitely one of the newer techs that the meta has evolved into. Razor Claw, Focus Energy Hydreigon. Now, I haven't been playing a lot of VGC as of lately, and so I hopped on ladder. It was about a week ago, and I hadn't played in like a couple of days or like a week or so. So I just hopped on ladder to get some practice games in while my I was uploading a video and waiting for it to render. And so I was just playing some practice games. I ran into this Hydreigon. I'm like, all right, well, it's probably gonna be like Life or maybe even Choice Specs or whatever, right? And it went for Focus Energy. I'm like, okay, well, that's a bit odd, but that's just a meme. Someone's just kind of just having some fun. I lost to it because they crit me every time. And I'm like, okay, well, that was funny, but this is not meta relevant. Next guy I ran into, the next match, Hydreigon, Focus Energy. And I kind of just sat there and I'm like, is this a thing? Like, is this viable now? And it is. And it's extremely good, actually. Extremely good. So what you have to be careful for now is this Razor Claw set. Now this Razor Claw set, ooh, it's really good because Hydreigon, with the ability, with like Razor Claw, obviously boosting your crit ratio and Focus Energy boosting your crit ratio. I don't know if it's a guaranteed crit, but it's like very, very likely that you will crit. And it gets extremely annoying because Hydreigon's drawback with Draco Meteor is obviously you lower its special attack, and with a very offensive metagame like this, if you lower your special attack, you're kind of not vulnerable, but you're not doing as much damage as before, and you're almost a sitting duck. But you can't really, it's hard to switch out sometimes because the metagame is really offensive, and so it's sometimes really hard to find a safe switching in the back. So it's like you don't really want to switch out. So Draco Meteor is like, oh, you only click that basically when you need to. But now there's like not too much drawback because you can just crit everything now, right? And you don't need Dark Pulse in this because like Dark Pulse doesn't really get you much when you can just crit every Draco Meteor. And Heat Wave's just there for coverage, like because you're not going to be hitting Steel types well with the Draco Meteor, so you can just go for like Heat Wave into like a Golden Go and then do a shit ton of damage from there. So that's kind of the idea with this set. It's extremely good. The EV spread is a bit different from the Life Orb spread. Life Orb spread, you're just maximizing your speed and damage output with just a teeny bit of bulk. This spread is more focused on, okay, a bit of bulk. The 92 HP and the 20 speed death, Jimmy Boyd explained in his video, but what that allows you to do, that allows you to, if you Terra Fire, you guaranteed live a Life Orb, Timid, Draco Meteor from Hydreigon, which is very important because, you know, obviously the Hydreigon wars are very interesting because Hydreigon's a really good Pokemon, but it's also a really good counter to itself. So it becomes a bit iffy when you have two on the field. Like, all right, well, what item is the other one? Does the other one Terra? If it Terra Steel and I go for the Draco Meteor, then I probably lose, right? But what if it, okay, what if it Terra Fires and then I can just click Draco Meteor? You know, there's a lot of mind games there. Or like if I click Draco Meteor, then I get the knockout. You know, that's cool, but then I'm -2 sitting on the field. So there's a lot of mind games when it comes to, you know, opposing a Hydreigon mirror match, and you know, having the bulk to be able to live a Hydreigon Draco Meteor is extremely important, and it cannot be undermined how important that is. Also allows you to get focus energy safer. Obviously with the speed, you're not going to be outspeeding too much. 148 speed isn't like the most speedy, but you're going to be outspeeding a lot of the metagame. You won't be outspeeding lots of the dragons, but because you have that bit of bulk, you're going to be living Draco Meteor anyway, so it's fine. Focus energy, Regical has the potential to just go absolutely insane. I saw a replay of my friend that crit 5 times, crit Draco Meteor 4 times, and crit Dark Pulse 2 times, and he won against Dondozo. This thing just beat Dondozo, which, you know what, could be potentially a pretty good Dondozo counter in the future. Definitely something to keep your eyes out for, just because this thing could be an absolute menace to society, is what I'm thinking. Now, I think this set's very good, and I think you will see it in the near future doing extremely well. I think this is going to be meta relevant, and honestly, with San Diego Regionals, coming in right today's day, it is Tuesday. Well, San Diego Regionals are this weekend, so I would potentially expect to see this guy show up this weekend because it's a new Hydreigon development, and I think it's going to be something very strong. And I think people are definitely going to have to find ways to deal with it. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Crazy, I say. Crazy, I tell you. Now, that's a cool Razor Claw set. I wasn't expecting that to pop off in the metagame as hard as it did. Another thing that you see kind of frequently now is choice specs. Now, I think this has always been a thing since the meta came out a little bit, but basically the same premise here is you have Terra Fire for the Heat Wave stat, for the defensive typing, and you just, it's basically the same EV spread, so you can obviously live that Draco once you Terra. Speed is the same because you want really good offense with choice specs, and honestly, like, because you have the bulk, you don't need to be running max speed because you're not worried about the speed ties with Hydreigon, because you'll always live if you Terra, unless they're opposing choice specs Hydreigon, then you die, then you drop to the Draco. The 9220, like I said, it means you guaranteed live a Life Orb Draco Meteor, which is very important, but you don't live Specs Draco Meteor. But don't worry, the next couple we're talking about are going to be able to live a Specs Draco Meteor, so don't worry about that. But this EV spread, basically you're just maximizing damage output. Draco Meteor is something that you're not going to be clicking often, but if you just want a clean one-hit knockout, it's always good. Dark Pulse and Snarl are very relevant. Obviously Heat Wave's good, just good spread damage, and obviously if you just Terra, Fire, and like Heat Wave, you can just do a shit ton of damage. But Snarl is the most important part about this. Snarl is very useful in this metagame, being able to slow the pace down, because this metagame is very offensive, right? And so being able to use Snarl, which not very many Pokemon use Snarl. In fact, really, how many Pokemon use Snarl that are meta relevant? Arcanine and Hydreigon are about the only meta relevant Pokemon that use Snarl. So, and maybe Tyranitar's not even meta relevant. So honestly, like, only 2 Pokemon use Snarl. So use that to your advantage. Like, Hydreigon is one of the few Pokemon that actually run Snarl and will run it well. It's just, so yeah, use that to your advantage, because Snarl can like help mitigate the damage that your opponent's board has, and you already deal lots of damage, because you can't undermine the power of Choice Specs Hydreigon. Now this is a different set. I do have 2 sets for Choice Specs Hydreigon. One is just you maximize your speed and your damage output. That's a different set. I like Jamie Boyd's set better, but if you just want to be able to be as speedy as possible and just go, that's another set, although you are sacrificing important bulk. So I'd actually rather go Jamie's set here, just because I think it's overall more consistent. However, You could also just go max speed if you're worried about, you know, losing the speed tied to, or losing the speed wars to stuff. But Snarl is very good because you can help mitigate damage, and you're just going to be hitting things extremely hard. A lot of Indeedee expect to live a Hydreigon Dark Pulse at what, like 30%, but if you just are choice specs, gone, out of here, right? Indeedee is dead. It's one of the beautiful things about Hydreigon. Hydreigon can just come in and clean games up. It's beautiful. It has really a lot of offensive power for this metagame, and it's just going to be able to do so much damage. Choice specs is one of the things to consider. I think it's pretty good in the metagame. Like, I don't think it is the best, but I think it can still put in some work. The next set that we have, I guess, okay, the choice spec set, but the next set we have is the Assault Vest set. Now, Assault Vest is actually really cool because Assault Vest, a lot of the previous, excuse me, I need some water. A lot of the previous sets that I talked about rely on Terra in order to live a Draco Meteor. Now, the Hydreigon set with the defenses, you live a Life Orb Draco Meteor. I didn't calc it, but because you're Assault Vest, I'm going to assume you do. Actually, I'm not so sure. Let's calc this right now. So if you are 9220 with Assault Vest, I'm pretty sure you live just a regular Draco Meteor. I think you should be able to anyways. So if you're just Assault Vest, the Draco Meteor, that's from choice specs. If you're Life Orb, you might be living that. You don't live Life Orb Draco Meteor with this investment with Assault Vest, but you have a very good chance to live a non-Life Orb Draco Meteor from that. And let's say they are choice specs, and they just like go for Terra. They choice specs, they Terra, and you Terra into, I don't know, a fire type. Click that. Draco Meteor is not killing. But basically, what this spread allows you to do is, number one, you live Dracos more comfortably. You have a chance to live a non-Life Orb, non-Specs Draco Meteor. So if your opponent's running, like, I don't know, happens to run a Razor Claw set or whatever, if they don't crit you, you can live that. If your opponent is also like a, if your opponent is also a Assault Vest set and like this spread, then you have a chance to live opposing Dracos. And this set is really nice because obviously it gives you more special bulk, so you can take hits just better in general. But one of the key things is Golden Go. Golden Go forces Hydreigon to Terra a lot of the time, just because Make It Rain pressure is insanely real. And if you're even chipped at like 75%, if you're at like 75%, Make It Rain probably picks up the knockout most of the time, just because most of them are choice specs. So in response to that, Hydreigon also often has to Terra, Terra to Fire, Terra to Steel to resist the Make It Rain, then to pick up the knockout on Golden Go if Golden Go's chipped down, or you just pick up the knockout Oko on it. So with this, you're not forced to Terra when you fight Golden Go. You can just be able to live the hit naturally, and that's the nice thing about Hydreigon. This Hydreigon spread, maybe I'd go a bit more special bulk. So if you're to run this Assault Vest set, I would consider running a bit more special bulk on Hydreigon. So you make sure that you live the Draco Meteor. Like a Life Orb Draco Meteor, honestly, it would be a really good benchmark to hit, or at least have a really good time against. Let's say you run, I have a set coming up here, but let's say you run like 100 Spadef. Life Orb Draco is still going to be doing a lot to you. But that is that's Life Orb Draco. That, you know, that's gonna, that actually hurts a lot, even with the Assault Vest. But you know, Draco allows you to take on Golden Go better. So I think it is still worth it. I like the Assault Vest because the Assault Vest, obviously you're able to take hits better. You don't need to Terra as much. And running Assault Vest also gives you access to, opens up the slot to Snarl. And single-handedly, that might be one of the most important things about Assault Vest Hydreigon, is because you get Snarl. Not, like I said, not a lot of things in the metagame get Snarl, and having access to it in your move pool is absolutely wonderful and should not be undermined. I think it's incredibly good. Personally on Hydreigon, I would mess around with the bulk a little bit. I wouldn't go too heavily in Spadef, because I think trying to EV to live a Draco Meteor without Terra is, you know, it's kind of hard. But, you know, that being said, you can live non-Life Orb Draco Meteors, and you don't have to Terra to live stuff like a Golden Go, which is very important because, you know, you could have, you're running Assault Vest Hydreigon opens up your team to, let's say, as like, okay, if you weren't running or Assault Vest Hydreigon, or like especially defensive Hydreigon, then Golden Go, your Golden Go check might be to Terra Hydreigon. Well, what if you need your Terra in the back once Golden Go is gone? right? So it kind of opens up that Terra slot so that it allows you to, it allows you another slot to Terra. Basically, and you get more additional bulk, so you can just live additional hits. If you look at some of the most used Pokemon here, you're going to be living Golden Go hits. You're going to be living, I mean, Armor Rouge hits, you know, it doesn't really hit you too strong, but you're going to be living those hits better. Hydreigon especially, you're going to be living more Hydreigon hits. Torkoal is going to be a lot easier. I mean, so a lot of teams don't have specifically hard Torkoal answers. Just because Hydreigon does the job decently well already. But the issue that Hydreigon has is if you're not running super specially defensive Hydreigon or just defensive Hydreigon already, you're going to be probably 2-hit KO'd by an Eruption. Now, if you're running specially defensive Hydreigon with like Terra Fire, I mean, you don't need to Terra Fire. You can just, you know, not Terra. But if you're running like a Assault-Vest Hydreigon and then you resist, you'll probably be able to live 2 Eruptions, which is very important because Draco is not going to drop... it's not going to drop Torkoal in 1 hit. You know, if you're Life Orb, it will be, but you know, if you have a Assault-Vest, you can live a couple hits under Trick Room. So that's very, very important there. This meta is more physically oriented, but it will allow you to live a couple more hits. That way you can take on Torkoal and Golden Go better, which are considered major threats in the metagame. I do like Assault-Vest. I think it definitely has a place. The last step before I wrap up the video, because I've been talking way too long, is my own little innovation. My own little innovation. Now, this entire time, I've been just using Jamie Boyd sets and explaining them in my own way, and hopefully giving a more detailed explanation into why they're good potentially and why you would run them. Now, this is a goated set. Now, there is a guy that goes by the name of Everglade Glade. I don't know if you've heard this guy, but he said, for this VR tournament, I'm gonna run Habanberry Hydreigon. And his friends were like, no, don't use it. It's bad. Like, it's bad. You're trash. You're a trash kid. But I said, a guy like me, Habanberry Hydreigon, that's the way to go. 6-3 in the VR tournament. Not a bad record. Habanberry won one of my games. Right? Single-handedly, I won a whole set with this thing. Why is Habanberry one of the secret spicy techs on Hydreigon that not many people are talking about right now? Well, when you saw me calcing previously for the Assault-Vest Hydreigon, I died to a Life Orb Draco Meteor, and in order to live, I had to Terra. All of these sets, you have to Terra to live. Now, what if you didn't have to Terra, and what if you could just live the hit? All right, so you see this Life Orb Timid set. All right, let's make our set. The 92, what is our EV spread? We have a bit more special defensive bulk, so we can take the Draco Meteors better. So we have 124 and 100. So, you know, let's put that in. Let's see what happens. We got 124 and 100, and we are Habanberry. Now, Habanberry is pretty niche, but it does get the job done. Oh, what does this Draco do? You always love the Draco. Draco does 90% max. 90%, that's it. Okay, well, what if they are choice specs, you say? Now, I think that's very valid because, you know, choice specs Hydreigon does exist. As an 19% chance to OHKO. So you have an 81% chance to live the Draco. Choice specs Draco. Without Terraing. So it's very important because there are a lot of matches where it's like, I need to live the Draco, but I don't exactly want to Terra because if I Terra, then I can't Terra something in the back. But I need to live the Draco and then KO back. This happened in my one set that I actually won. I won the entire set off of this, where, you know, I had Hydreigon in and he had his Hydreigon in, and I needed to live the Draco Meteor. Well, I could Terra, but I wanted to Terra something in the back because I knew if I Terra something in the back, if I didn't Terra something in the back, I would probably lose. And he went for the Draco Meteor onto my Hydreigon, and I lived on like 10 HP because of the Habanberry, and I KO'd back, and I was able to get in my guy in the back, Terra, and win. That is the power of Habanberry, because that is something that you're not going to get with most other Hydreigon. The ability to be able to comfortably live basically any Draco Meteor and be able to KO back without having to Terra. That is specifically the niche that Habanberry fills. It also means that, let's say Hydreigon is chipped and is at like 75%. If Garchomp goes through a Dragon Claw, you are living. You are living the hit, and you will be able to KO back with Draco Meteor. Now, it does restrict you because then you're not getting the general use that like a Choice Specs, a Life Orb, a Assault Vest, or a what was the other item? A Razor Claw has, like throughout the battle. Those items help you throughout the battle, but Habanberry, where Habanberry succeeds is in those instances where you need to live the hit, which is very often. I found that Habanberry actually procs very often. It helps you out so much, and it helps with so much momentum that it single-handedly makes up for not really having an item for the rest of the match. Habanberry is just so key in that aspect, and that's why you want to run it. So honestly, a lot of these sets, you can use whatever you want. I will say some of the best sets on here. If I were to use one of these sets, I would either go for the Razor Claw, Assault Vest, or Habanberry set. Personally, these are all the sets I compiled for Hydreigon and the ways that you can use them to effectively use them on your team in the VGC Series 1 metagame. Obviously, with San Diego Regionals coming up, I think it's very important for people to have the knowledge and to have the skill and to have some guides like this that kind of go more in depth into why you want to use this. Jamie Boyd's videos, I'm not knocking them at all. I think he's very good, and he's a guy that can get a point across in a very concise manner. My mic almost fell over. He gets the point across in a very concise manner, but I wanted to go into more depth than what Jamie did. I think Jamie did an incredible job at filling out explaining all these sets. But I want to give a more like overall understanding of like, all right, how to use these Pokemon, when to use them, like the advantages between each. He doesn't exactly go over that in depth. Obviously, you get more of a short-term video, but this is what I want to provide to you guys, more in-depth explanation behind the choices, behind like why you would use each set. I'm going to have more guides come out in the future like this. Tell me in the comments below what else you would like to see. I might just do a series right now covering the Dragon type Pokemon. So another one might be Dragonite, talking about how good Dragonite is. But that is all I really have for you today. If you stuck around, listen to me talk for 27 minutes, I really do appreciate it. If you did, smash the like button down below, subscribe for more content. And I will catch you guys in the next video. So stay safe and peace.